What if a court ruling could change the entire landscape of a constitutional right, only for the judges to suddenly pull it back? The old Charlie Brown. That's kind of what happened here. And by kind of, I mean exactly what happened here in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in the case of USA versus Peterson. And there's a legal twist that you need to know about it. In this video, we're going to be diving into a case talking about suppressors, silencers, and more broadly, Second Amendment protections that, believe me, you're going to want to stick around for, because the ramifications go way beyond suppressors and silencers. Far beyond. But you're not going to believe what happened. Stay tuned. Guys, let's get into it. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to cover the ruling and then what's happened, the breaking update from June 17th. And then we're going to, once all the pieces are on the board, we're going to start playing chess. So first, let's break down the ruling. So in the Peterson case, the Fifth Circuit examined whether suppressors, aka silencers, the devices that quiet a gunshot, are protected under the Second Amendment. The defendant, George Peterson, argued that suppressors are an integral part of the firearm because a bullet must pass through an attached suppressor to arrive at its intended target. Mr. Peterson tied this to the Heller decision, claiming that suppressors meet the definition of a weapon as something that casts and strikes. So that was kind of the literal way of approaching this of, hey, it casts or strikes. Now, the court rejected this reasoning outright, stating, quote, a suppressor by itself is not a weapon. Without being attached to a firearm, it would not be of much use for self-defense. They further held that the Second Amendment only protects items necessary to a firearms operation, not just items that are basically compatible with it. Guys, that's a huge, huge deal. We're going to get to that in a couple moments. So the court went on to uphold the National Firearms Act, the NFA restrictions, whereby all suppressors must be registered, taxed under the National Firearms Act, citing the government's compelling interest in regulating suppressors due to their potential use in criminal activity. Of course, everything is a potential use in criminal activity, but that's neither here or there. This logic, of course, has some holes, though, and I want to take a moment just to kind of poke into that. Barrel, trigger, stock, safety. None of these items are exactly unto themselves useful for self-defense. I suppose you could bludgeon someone with the barrel, but you get the idea. Does that mean that they are not protected? The court's distinction between necessary and compatible falls apart when you consider other parts. Sure, a barrel might be essential for a gun, just like the trigger and so forth in order to fire. What about the safety? What about the trigger guard? What about a recoil pad or sights? These aren't strictly speaking necessary for the device that we call a firearm to launch bullets out the barrel. Yet, they make a firearm safer, more accurate, more practical, and more effective at saving lives. Shouldn't they be protected too? So this is where the Supreme Court Bruin's decision shakes things up, and you're going to see how this all starts to connect and why it's going to be very important in the future. Bruin says that the Second Amendment covers modern instruments that facilitate armed defense. Modern instruments that facilitate armed defense. Echoing Catano's ruling on stun guns. Catano is the 2016 ruling that, among other things, went into common use a little bit. The fact that something didn't have to be around in 1791 and the Second Amendment was adopted to be protected today, and more. The key word here is facilitate, not necessary. You see how those are two very different goalposts. What is necessary for a firearm to function? That's talking like an anti-gunner. Because bluntly, there's not all that much that's really truly necessary for a firearm to shoot. Maybe not shoot well, but to shoot, right? But now you're talking about facilitating. Now we've got much better goalposts, much better legal goalposts to be playing for. Suppressors do facilitate self-defense by reducing noise, protecting hearing, and maintaining situational awareness, much like a sight improves accuracy or safety prevents accidents. If you ever tried shooting a firearm in close quarters inside, or worse yet, a vehicle, I know you'll agree with me, but you're probably watching this with closed captions turned on. The court's narrow view in Peterson, therefore, arguably clashed with the Bruin's broader scope. Then came the bombshell on June 17th. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals withdrew its opinion. This is almost a legal unicorn. I'm not saying it never happens, it definitely does, but it's super, super rare. Federal appellate courts almost never retract published decisions. Once a ruling is out, it's usually binding precedent within that circuit until and unless the Supreme Court intervenes or the full court reconsiders en banc. So keep in mind, all these courts, they may have a few dozen different judges, sometimes more, sometimes less. Just It varies. And the way that most of these decisions are actually heard is there's a random panel of typically 3 judges that will hear something. If you get, let's say you've got a circuit that is super right-wing or left-wing, pick one, I don't care. But for whatever reason, the random allotment is, hey, you got 3 lefties on a branch, on a circuit that's actually really right-wing, and they reach an opinion that's super out of step with that circuit, or vice versa as well. Either side, usually the losing side, can petition to rehear the case en banc. In other words, the whole circuit will scrap that opinion, rehear it with every judge coming in, and typically if they do that, you usually see some sort of reversal. And it happens in situations like that, where the minority party in a particular circuit is the one that dominates the particular panel. So bottom line, you tend to see a withdrawal the very few times that you see it. And again, there's always more weeds to crawl into here. I'm keeping this broad strokes. Either if you have a pending en banc review, we don't think that's what's happening here. 2, if you have a panel correction or substitution. So this is if the original judges are fixing errors, they're refining their reasoning, or there's other new arguments that emerge, things like that. Or number 3, we get to it, the change in government position, which is perhaps the rarest of all. We've got the unicorn on top of the unicorn here. The government reverses its stance, forcing the court to reassess. In Peterson, it's the third option. The feds flipped their position and the Fifth Circuit had to hit pause. So initially, President Biden's Justice Department argued that suppressors aren't Second Amendment arms. They're not protected. Keep in mind, Second Amendment only protects arms. But after Bruen rewrote the rules, and really, I would say, clarified the rules, appropriately so, demanding that gun laws align with historical tradition, the government was forced to backtrack here. In a supplemental brief, they conceded, upon further reflection, we now recognize that suppressors are bearable arms with lawful applications such as self-defense and hearing protection. This reversal pulled the rug out from under the original ruling, likely prompting the withdrawal on June 17th, 2025. So why is this so important? I mean, pick a reason. The government backtracking is obviously huge. It's one thing when politicians talk. It's quite another when they actually act, let alone act in favor of the Second Amendment. So that's all fantastic to see. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals tends to be one of, if not arguably the most pro-Second Amendment circuit court in the entire nation. So to have them throw a stone at suppressors was frankly pretty scary and disturbing. So it's great to see this get pulled back. That's fantastic. And of course, what's happening right now when we're talking about all this while I'm filming this, we're talking about the big, beautiful bill and everything that's going through there. Now, look, I'm not taking any position whatsoever with respect to the spending, the politics, or whatever else that's going on as part of the big, beautiful bill. What I am talking about is the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act. Both of these would together seek to delist suppressors for the HPA, the Hearing Protection Act, as well as short barrel rifles and short barrel shotguns for the Short Act. HPA and the Short Act are now both in the Senate version. We are halfway through the it's happening part. Again, I'm not suggesting should the big beautiful bill pass or not pass. My position is very simple. If it's going to pass, I want it to have both. Is that easy enough for folks to understand? I'm not advocating for or against anything else. I'm just saying that if this is going to go through, let's get this done. Let's get the Short Act into the House version. Let's get everything in here. Be sure to contact your congressman. Even if you live in an anti-gun state, tweet at those who might be on the iffy side, on the fence side. Tweet at the senators, or X, I don't know what you say, X at the senators, whatever it is. Get them on board. You'd be surprised how much they actually listen. They do it quietly, but they do listen. Guys, one of the really important things about this is acknowledging the fact that you don't have to be a trigger, a barrel, a receiver, and one or two other parts of a firearm to actually be protected by the Second Amendment. This is a huge goalpost shift, and it's a beautiful one. Absolutely beautiful one. And if we can just stick the landing here, which in some sense we already have, but we still have more court rulings to paper this up and get it going, we're going in the right direction. I don't know what to tell you, but it's fantastic. Be sure to contact your congressman. We're going to close with our ever popular quote of the day. This one's a little bit different. This one's from Theodore Haas, who is a Dachau concentration camp survivor who once said, quote, "These Sarah Brady types must be educated to understand that because we have an armed citizenry, a dictatorship has not happened in America. These anti-gun fools are more dangerous to liberty than street criminals or foreign spies," end quote. Hard words, hard words. I appreciate you sticking around. Hit like, share the video, share the good news. And there's lots of layers to this. Let me know in the comment section what you think is the most important, the biggest, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.